Okay, here it is. Here is Naomi running inside of a PC case. The noisy fan is the Naomi fan that I forgot to replace before I mounted it in here. The case fans are not hooked up in this PC at this point. There's one on the front, two on the top, one in the rear. Naomi's mounted on the wooden board. Over here I have a Raspberry Pi hooked up with a network cable to the NetDim. It's set to Netboot, so if I get my phone, I should be able to launch a game from the hotspot on the Raspberry Pi. In here, the back is the undammed USB decoder. In the front is the Tucson Logic JVS bridge, which takes place in the Naomi JVS I/O. Everything is plugged in. Everything has power. I've got, kind of see it there, I have two things plugged in on the top panel of this PC. Into that USB 2 connector, I have the undammed USB decoder. The fight stick, Mad Catz fight stick, plugs into that PC USB 2 header, and the cable for that runs down, and it's one that you would normally plug into a motherboard. But I made a couple connectors like this. One for one player, this one eventually if I want a two player. Okay, so there's 4 wires. We've got black is ground, yellow is 5 volts, and then I forget which one of the two middle ones. One's like data minus and data plus. So you can see another one with the same wire colors going to the undammed USB decoder. You don't have to plug a fight stick right into the USB port. Behind it there are 5 pins. So I've got a 4-pin cable. The 5th pin is for the USB cable, the metal piece that goes against the metal piece of that, but I'm not using the metal piece, so just 4 wires connected behind it. And then I've got just the buttons that I've mapped so far going into the USB DAM, or the Tucson Logic JVS I/O, which was my last video, mounted on a board in here. I have a cable management issue. This power supply that I got is not modular, so it's got two strings of Molex connectors, 2 strings of SATA connectors, 2 video card connectors, and then the big motherboard connector that goes into the adapter that goes into the Naomi. So I routed all but one of the Molex wire strings into the back of the case where you'd normally do PC wire management, which leaves like no room for any of this stuff. So, and this is a first test to make sure, does everything work? Have I got everything sorted out right? And it appears that I do. This is a temporary solution for the power to the USB, the undammed USB decoder board, where it's pulling 5 volts and ground from the Naomi into a connector that then goes up to the board. I think I might be able to just take the 5 volts that's coming in through the micro USB into the Tucson Logic board, like I said in my previous video, and then just jumper 5 volts over to the undammed board. I'm not sure. I have emailed the guys asking if that's something I can safely do. I don't know if that's going to make it draw so much current it damages the Tucson Logic board. So this is a viable alternative, although I've kind of got to not a very good wiring solution here, just kind of a temporary thing plugged into that. I would make a cable that has the correct plug to plug into the Naomi on the one end, as well as the correct connector for the other end. About the only thing that's not going on this is the HDMI out is going right to my monitor. So what I want to do is, just like the controllers going into the top USB and also stereo, my audio is coming out of the speaker jack in the PC, because I did the same thing. I wired the speaker jack down to the connector that's for HD audio on the motherboard. So it's routing the stereo audio up to the top, and then the speaker that's behind this monitor, currently I have a plug in there that goes from mini stereo to RCA, because I was hooking it directly to the Naomi. So I've got RCA to stereo adapter there, and then it plugs into the PC. So I haven't turned this on yet to play a game. Well, I mean, I turned it on. I haven't tried to load a game, so bear with me as the camera goes places it normally shouldn't. Okay. So, there we go. My speaker deal in the back there is turning on. And I will stop this and then use my phone to load a game to the Naomi and see if that works. Train of thought, I think I interrupted myself. I have the fight stick and the audio plugged right into the top of the PC on normal jacks that are normally used for the PC motherboard. I also plan on doing something similar with the HDMI. I'll have the HDMI out going hopefully to a connector on the top, so that all the things that you need to access to get the output, the controls into the Naomi, the video and audio out, are all on the top of the PC case, so you don't have to open it for anything. Okay, so I will stop now and hopefully connect with the phone and send a game to the Naomi using the Raspberry Pi and the network cable. Okay, I just sent a game to the Naomi using the WiPi hotspot through my phone. You can hear audio. So my RCA's connected to the HD audio pins on the motherboard connector that go up to the front panel and then go out to the speaker are working. The controls I tested were working earlier in the JBS test menu. It's on free play. Let me hit start on the Mad Catz controller here. That worked. Okay. This is a 4-way gate in the Mad Catz controller, which sucks. I don't like those for octagonal, but here I am playing with one hand over there, and you can clearly see it's working. Looks like that button might be sticky. Alright, it's firing when I am not holding the button down. Oh, that button sticks. Okay, that is not a problem with my setup. That is the first button on this controller, use controller I bought, sticks. And that is fine because I already plan to swap the buttons in this controller out for Sanwa or Sametsu. I actually prefer Sametsu buttons and Sanwa joystick, but so yeah, this button feels like it might be sticking. There's button 2, launch a bomb. Okay, so without actually sitting down and doing this with two hands to make sure everything's working, it appears to be I am rotating my ship. That's holding button 2 down and moving the joystick. So there you go. Absolute 100% proof of concept. PlayStation 3 fight stick going into the USB port on the PC, down to an adapter that sends it into the undammed USB decoder board, which then sends the button presses over to the Tucson Logic JVS I/O board, which then through a USB cable to the Naomi sends the controls to the Naomi. Audio jacks going to a motherboard connector that hooks up to the front panel, speaker connection to provide audio out through the mini stereo plug. HDMI currently is VGA from the Naomi to a VGA to HDMI adapter, powered by the PC power supply. And this cable, hopefully, will end up going to a connector on the front panel, and then you can just take an HDMI cable, plug it into the top of the PC, and then out to a monitor. There's one other thing I think I might do. I think it will work okay without causing an issue. You see that this HDMI converter also converts audio. It's got left and right RCA. So does the Naomi. I think if I get splitters and I split out this signal so it goes both to the converter and also to the PC jacks on top of the PC, that would make it so that if you take this rig to a place that has a TV or a monitor with speakers, that the audio will go through the HDMI cable, so all you need to do is hook up the HDMI cable to the TV and hook up the stick to the USB ports, and you won't have to run the audio. But in this case, my monitor doesn't have speakers. I need to plug in some speakers. So I think if I split that audio signal down here 2 ways, it'll work on a setup with a TV with speakers or a setup like this where you have separate speakers. Of course, a TV is going to be hard, depending on the TV, to rotate vertical for vertical games, but it at least will be an option that this rig will work for either one. One thing I want to do, I currently have this setup as test and this is service, like my other video. If I hit test, it'll exit the game and go to test menu. So I want to change those so they're not on this stick. So that these will be on the front of the PC case in one of the drive bays. 3D printed drive bay cover, put 2 switches in it, 1 test, 1 service. That doesn't look like it's getting stuck down now. Maybe that button was just dirty and it freed up. I don't know. Oh, okay. I wired 3 buttons up, but I can only do test of 2 in game. The Naomi JBS test will test all the controls that you wire up, but each game will only test the controls that it uses. And so yeah, this that's a square pattern. It's just a coincidence when I say that the fight stick has a square restrictor. That's not why that shows up as a square. That's just showing up, left, or right, and then the upper right. So I can feel when I'm moving the joystick across that there's no indentation in the middle there for up. Whereas an octagonal stick, there'll be an indentation there, so it'll kind of feel like an indentation for all of the directions. All 8 directions. Some people prefer square, some people prefer diagonal, but that's getting off topic. Anyway, 2-player, it's not going to show anything because, as I said, the undammed USB decoder board, you need 1 for each player. I only bought 1. The JBS bridge will handle 2. You can see the wires that are going to that far header. That's player 1 header, and this is player 2 header. So all I would need to do to add another player, there's not enough space on that wooden board to mount it to that board. So it would be, actually, come to think of it, it'd be kind of a mess because I'd have to put another drive bay in here to mount the other one, and then its wires would have to go from one drive bay down to the other. So if I was going to use those DuPont connectors like I did for this, I just wire the DuPont connectors from this one probably to a connector that I can detach, and same with the other one, so I can put the drive bays in and then connect the connector to get all the wires to signal back and forth. But that's not in my plans right away. Another thing that might be in my plans right away, actually probably will be in my plans right away because now I've proven that this all works, is to take the screen off of that Naomi, or that Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi 3B Plus in there has a screen for game selection and buttons that let you scroll through the list of games. Obviously, when this is in the PC, I'm not going to have access to that or need it. Like I mentioned in a prior video, I might be able to, 3D print a custom drive bay case and mount that so that those are showing in the front of the unit, so you can use them to select games. But honestly, there's so many Naomi games that it's just makes more sense just to pull your phone out and connect to the Raspberry Pi that way and send a game using that. And that'll make it use a little bit less power, not that that's a problem, but a little less power, and I will print a different case. This one has basically no airflow, so there is a large fan right here in front, and when I eventually get it running, it will be sending some airflow there. Actually, I originally had this mounted down here where it's getting more of the fan. As my finger down there, the top of the fan doesn't extend all the way up to where the Raspberry Pi is now. So I'll probably move the Pi down. I could also maybe move this one higher and have the Pi below it. But anyway, yeah, I'm thinking of printing a new case, and it'll have more holes in it so that it's got more cooling, and it won't have the screen on it, as that's not necessary in this setup. But hey, it works. It's cool. I think it's cool. Wire management is an absolute mess. There's a couple things I can do. One is just not worry about it. Just kind of loop things up and zip tie and keep them in the bottom of the PC case, kind of like this PGA cable that's like, I don't know how long that is, like 5 foot long. or 6 foot long. I did order a 1.5 foot long VGA cable, thin VGA cable, so it'll plug in and go to the converter and not have a bunch of coiled up extra wire. I also ordered I forget how long, a shorter and thinner HDMI cable so it can run from here to the top of the panel without having a bunch of extra wire. And then, like I said, you'll just need to plug an HDMI cable in the top. Did I say HDMI or USB? Whatever. This is the only thing I haven't figured out where to mount for sure yet, and I'm really thinking it's going to go pretty much where it is now. Velcro to the case, and I don't want to do that, but it's really a pain in the neck to figure out where else that can go. It's small enough, but it's got the power plug coming straight out, the HDMI, the VGA, all that stuff that comes out makes it this wide when you're trying to mount it, because you have to have space for the stuff coming in and out. If both were coming out from one side, you know, I could probably easily put it in a drive bay down here because the cables would just be going one way. But with things coming in one side and out the other, it's really a pain in the neck to figure out where to mount it, other than, like I said, just right here on the Naomi case with some Velcro. Another idea is in the bottom of the case. There is a filter panel in there that I would be blocking for air, but honestly, the power supply fan is in the bottom, and so it goes to about here, and then all this area is not, there's no fan or anything there, so putting something over the filter in that area would be fine. Hopefully it would stick, because there's just this really big open hexagonal pattern of metal for Velcro or double-sided tape to stick on the bottom of the converter to hold it down there. But as this case will mostly be upright and not laying like this, that shouldn't be a problem. The reason it is laying like this is, again, this is not mounted, so it would kind of flop down, and this is the only HDMI cable I have right now that I'm not using for something else, and it's too short to actually have this PC on the floor, which would be the actual final plan for where this would be when you're using it, just on the floor somewhere and having long enough cables to hook up to what you need to. So there we go, 2 videos there back to back. I had to take a break to swap my phone over to connect to the Raspberry Pi to send the game over, and then I'll paste these 2 videos together. And yeah, apart from something was weird going on with the firing with this, which it did feel to me like the button was stuck, but now I can't get it to stick, so I'm not sure what the deal was with that. But yeah, it's looking good.